So we're gonna do my hands today. Do meaning we're gonna treat it with Photofacial or intense pulse light to get rid of all the browns. I, over the summertime, got a really bad tan line. I went to the beach and I put sunscreen all over my whole body, but I must have swiped my fingers down my hand to get my sunscreen on the hand, and it left me with big tan lines on my hand. So I wanted to show you how Photofacial works by even lifting up the tan that I have, which could potentially turn into sun damage down the road and in the future. Hoping that it would fade on its own, but this will make it do it a lot faster. I don't know if you can see that. The tan has calmed down a little bit, but there's a stripe here, a stripe there, and a stripe there, where when I put my sunscreen on, I obviously missed some spots on my hand. This sun that we have up there is very strong. You should have seen the burns I had on my hand. It was bad. Being in the skincare industry, that I was very upset with myself. I couldn't believe that that had happened, because I'm usually very good about being cautious about putting sunscreen on my hands. So luckily, we have technology here, and I can reduce the pigment and lift it up a lot faster than it would naturally fade on its own and clear up the sunspots that I have on my hands. In addition to that, a lot of times as we're driving along in the car, our hands are exposed to the sun and we get a lot of sun damage on the tops of our hands along with our face. Where people play a lot of golf, anytime we're outside, it's really important to be wearing sunscreen on your hands too, on a regular basis. So I wanted to show you the Photofacial, and this treatment is another one I can do on myself as long as I'm protecting my eyes with the goggles here. I'm going to use the green handpiece, which is one that we typically use for the face, but there are protocols to use it on the hands as well. I like to use this one more so on the face because it targets both broken vessels, capillaries or redness, rosacea, and brown spots. And most of us people do have both either blood vessels or brown spots on the face, so we might as well treat them both while we can. For the hands, I'm going to use it because I don't have a ton of sun damage. If there was an overwhelming amount of sun damage, I would most likely use our yellow handpiece here. It's a little bit larger of a tip and covers a little larger surface area, and it's a little bit more delicate for the hands. But I am going to get more aggressive on myself. Mainly, I always want to see what the worst case scenario is for myself, and I like to be pretty aggressive on myself. So use the Palomar Starlux. It's an intense pulse light platform and also a laser platform. It has plugs here where we just plug in our IPL and or laser, depending upon which one we're using. And the head, which goes here, we can turn it on. And as this is getting ready and warmed up, I'll go ahead and cleanse my hands with some alcohol, and also get them prepped with a little bit of lotion to help couple light to the skin. So there's multiple ways to create hand rejuvenation. As we get older, of course the sunspots are going to become more prominent. We also start to get crepey, thin-looking skin, and our knuckles and veins appear a little bit more prominent as we get older. So treating with Photofacial is just one way to reduce the sun damage. Other techniques are actually using laser to create thermal injuries. The non-ablative laser is a little bit more hand-friendly, as our skin here is pretty thin. And that will work more so for the collagen production and texture of the skin. And then thirdly, you can actually inject filler under the skin in the hands to act as a barrier between the skin and the veins and ligaments. Therefore, it offers a little bit more of a pad in here and makes the skin not look so thin and old. Lux lotion is a little fructose lotion to help make that connection of light to my skin. And we're always looking in our treatment settings to make sure that treatment settings are correct for our skin type and the area that we're treating. highest setting that the Starlux treatment guide allows me to for my skin Fitzpatrick, which is about 3. So I'm about 36 joules at 30 milliseconds with the green handpiece. What happens when we're treating photofacial is that this handpiece is a big flash of light, has multiple wavelengths, which is why it can also treat blood vessels and brown spots, melanin in the skin. Of course, we're just using it right now to treat the melanin in my hand. The pigment is a target for the light and it tracks the light. It converts it to heat. And the heat essentially energizes the spots on my hand and pulls them up. It forms a light layer of crusting over the next couple of days that looks like crusty grounds or cracked pepper. And then it'll begin to flake off after about 2 weeks. It might fully take about 4 weeks to completely clear up again. So we'll go ahead and get started with the photofacial. Okay, so we'll start and just move along as we go here. And it feels like a rubber band snapped, slightly less than that actually. This handpiece tip gets very, very cold. This is a water-cooled system. That cold tip sits directly on my skin and protects my skin while it's heating up the pigmentation. To make this treatment more comfortable if people are sensitive, 2 Advil, about a half an hour to 45 minutes prior to your treatment really helps with pain in general. And this is a small tip, so we want to make sure we're doing a really good overlap to get all of the surface area of my hand. And what we want to notice right off the bat is some erythema, some heat that's being held within the hand, causing the skin to turn pink. And additionally, we also want to see the pigmentation lifting or energizing right away, and that just looks like pigmentation getting darker. Okay, so after the IPL, I'm just going to cool the hand down. This is Humatrix, very similar to aloe vera. This is the cooling gel to calm the hand down. And then we'll let that energize for a couple of minutes, work the other hand, and then come back to it and do any touch-ups if necessary. Pulse. Okay, so now that my hands have been treated with the IPL, they feel a little warm to the touch right now. Really not too bad. After I put on the cooling gel, the heat has really calmed down tremendously immediately. After the treatment, you'll feel a little bit of heat for the next couple of hours. So we do recommend using ice packs on and off to cool the skin down and also to help with healing, such as any swelling or redness that you're going to get after the treatment. Typically they'll be warm, but that will, like I said, calm down fairly quickly. They'll stay tender a lot longer, so adding additional heat such as washing your hands in hot water, doing the dishes, things like that are going to feel very irritating, so you want to avoid that. Also hot tubs, saunas, jacuzzis, hot showers, and even pools with chemicals we actually ask you to avoid for 48 hours. All of that. a good 48 hours, because any additional heat on top of your hands right now, of course, is going to feel a little bit more tender and irritating, and it's an adverse reaction. So it could cause any adverse reaction. So we definitely don't want that. Our next most important thing after photofacial is to keep the area moist and hydrated, particularly with a moisturizing SPF to keep it blocked from the sun. And then, like I said, immediately you'll start to see the spots darkening up. It'll take 2 to 3 days for them to fully lift. So I'll go ahead and take some photos for the next following days of my hands so you can see what that looks like throughout the process. Takes anywhere from about 7 to 10 days to just begin to flake off. So these brown spots will lift, and then with our natural skin cells turning over, they'll eventually shed off on their own. It'll start in about 10 days, 10 to 14 days, and then take up to about 4 to 6 weeks to fully exfoliate. So technically there's no physical downtime. We just call this more social downtime, where the spots on my hands are going to look darker and more exacerbated for the next couple of weeks until the exfoliation process happens. So what you can do is just keep them moist. You can put a tinted moisturizer on to kind of hide any of the browns that are pulling up. And then in 2 weeks, but not before then, you may go ahead and start exfoliating and encouraging those cells to flake off faster so that your hands are looking better a lot quicker. So that's it for photofacial. It's pretty simple. But like I said, there are lots of different ways that you can rejuvenate the hands, whether it's getting rid of the sunspots with IPL, or working on the texture, lines and wrinkles and crepey skin with laser, or injecting fillers to plump up the volume so they don't look so thin and bony. But hopefully that was helpful in educating you how hand rejuvenation works, IPL particularly for sunspots on the hands. And again, I'll show you some pictures so you can follow along in my process and in my journey with hand rejuvenation.